It was pouring rain on Monday morning, the sky as gray as the expressions of those entering the main lobby of Argon Tech, the booming tech conglomerate famous for its AI products that claimed to be shaping the future. Amid the throngs in the lobby, no one paid attention to the man in the gray maintenance uniform, carrying an old toolbox, padding, head slightly lowered. Jordan Blake, 38, temporary night shift janitor. He didn't speak much, and even avoided eye contact. Dark-skinned, calloused hands, lean but broad-shouldered. Each of his steps was steady, not slow. Just no one ever looked closely enough to notice that he walked like someone who had once led others. "Hey, Janitor Joe." "The coffee machine's wobbling like it's about to blow," a blonde employee muttered as Jordan passed the fifth-floor pantry. Jordan didn't answer. He simply stopped, opened his bag, pulled out a screwdriver, and carefully adjusted the misaligned leg of the machine. It took less than 10 seconds. He walked away before the man realized the coffee maker was working better than ever. Behind him, soft chuckles. Does he even understand human language? I thought those floor-sweeping robots only knew how to nod. They didn't bother to lower their voices because they knew Jordan wouldn't react. He never reacted to any insult in the 2 months he had worked there. Sometimes, people didn't need to hit you. How they looked at you was cruel enough. Jordan had once sat in a different seat, in a different world, where the name Blake was sought after in the hiring files of top firms. But now, he worked hourly, earning less than the starting salary of those who sneered at him. No one asked why. They only saw the outward shell, a faded uniform, fingernails grimy with machine oil, and eyes as still as stagnant water. One evening, while Jordan was replacing a light bulb in the 11th floor conference room, a group of senior executives walked in unexpectedly. They thought the room was empty, readying for an investor pitch. Jordan hurried to pack up his tools, but a sharp, cold voice rang out before he could leave. "Who authorized you to be in here at this hour?" The man's name tag read, "Lucas, Chief Operating Officer." Jordan replied calmly, "It was on today's maintenance list. I'm just changing the bulb." Lucas gave him a fleeting glance before turning to the others, half smiling, half mocking. "Seems we need stricter personnel screening. A janitor can apparently walk in and out of high-level meetings." Jordan silently gathered his tools and left. He neither bowed his head nor straightened his back. On his way down to the basement, he passed by the new prototype AI server, with deep learning algorithms running. On the screen was a flashing red error message. No one was there. Jordan paused for a few seconds, staring at the code. Then he walked away quietly. Later that night, the system's error was mysteriously fixed. No one understood how. If you're listening to this story and feel a slight ache in your chest, please leave a like or a comment saying I see him, because people like Jordan live among us daily, but are often treated as invisible. In the cafeteria, Jordan ate the same thing every day, a cold egg sandwich and water. He sat in the corner, facing the window overlooking the parking lot. One time, a female intern left her laptop behind. Jordan noticed the screen an AI programming script, stuck in an infinite loop caused by a syntax error. He picked up the laptop, typed a few lines, fixed it, and placed it back exactly as it was. The next day, the girl was ecstatic, telling her colleagues, "My AI's running again. I thought it was completely dead." No one thought about the man who had touched her laptop the day before. But someone did notice. Ryan, a 22-year-old intern, obsessed with tech and attuned to the details everyone else overlooked. He started keeping track of the times Jordan happened to be near malfunctioning equipment. Every single time, the devices worked perfectly afterwards. One day, Ryan saw Jordan in the server room, strictly off-limits to anyone below engineer level. Jordan stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on a monitor filled with complex numeric strings. Ryan held his breath. Jordan turned. Their eyes met. No words, just a brief silent moment. Jordan gave a faint nod before walking away. "Are you still here?" If this story makes you want to know who he is, hit subscribe to follow more stories like this. There's so much more to tell. That night, Ryan searched online. With a small clue from a hand-drawn quantum chip circuit diagram that had fallen from Jordan's pocket, he discovered a name that once shook the tech world in 2013. J.B. Blake, the anonymous cybersecurity prodigy, who dismantled a $200 million international botnet and then disappeared. Ryan was starting to see it now. Jordan wasn't just a janitor, and this was only the beginning. Ryan couldn't sleep that night. The way Jordan had looked at him in the server room wasn't the look of someone afraid of being discovered. It felt like a gentle warning. Don't dig too deep if you're not ready to face the truth. But Ryan wasn't the type to stop. He had grown up in a neighborhood full of prejudice and limits, where kids with ambition were often called delusional. Ryan chose silence. He chose to become an observer. And now, he was witnessing something beyond anything he had ever imagined. He began arriving at work earlier, leaving later, and finding ways to accidentally pass by the areas where Jordan often appeared. Each night, he wrote notes in a small notebook. 9:15 p.m. Jordan adjusts a network cable on the 7th floor. 11:02 p.m. Jordan recalibrates the server room's temperature control. Unnoticed by anyone. 12:34 a.m. Jordan sits in the technician's break room, coding non-stop for 47 minutes, without looking up a single reference. Those lines of code weren't games. Ryan knew that. It was the language of people who lived in a world where a single mistake could bring down an entire banking security system. Sometimes he wanted to confront Jordan, to say, "I know who you are." But every time he stood before him, Ryan felt like a kid playing with Lego in front of an architect who had once built entire cities. One night, the building's central air conditioning system suddenly failed. The 9th floor, where Argon Tech's AI processors were tested, began to overheat. Alarms blared, but the tech team was still 20 minutes away. Ryan instinctively ran toward the floor, but as soon as he reached the door, he saw Jordan crouched by the main electrical panel. No manuals, no schematics. Only his hands were moving as fast and precisely as a concert pianist. In 40 seconds, the alarm stopped. The vents roared back to life. The temperature began to drop. Jordan closed the panel, stood up, and flexed his wrists like someone playing piano for too long. He walked away. Ryan stood frozen, speechless. For the first time, Ryan's pride was crushed by absolute admiration. Not because Jordan was better, but Jordan didn't need to prove anything at all. He was doing this for something else, something more profound, like an old promise he still hadn't fulfilled. Ryan went to HR the next day, asking about Jordan Blake. But no one knew much beyond a few lines in a temporary hire file. New degree. New remarkable experience. Sparse background. New emergency contacts. Probably just some drifter trying to get by. The HR rep scoffed. Nothing worth looking into. Ryan didn't laugh. He felt angry for Jordan, but Jordan didn't. That evening, when he noticed Ryan staring at him longer than usual, Jordan simply asked, "You planning to ask me something?" Ryan hesitated, then spoke the truth. "I know you're not ordinary. I saw you fix the system. I saw you coding. You're different from everyone else here." Jordan studied him for a long moment before quietly saying, "And what do you plan to do with that?" The question wasn't a threat. It felt like an ethical test. Ryan didn't know how to answer. Jordan stood up, patted his shoulder, and walked away, leaving only one sentence behind. "You're talented, but don't let this world convince you that you must prove it to people who refuse to see." At that moment, Ryan no longer sees Jordan as a janitor. He was a monument, a living reminder of something the world had once rejected. The following night, Argon Tech's entire internal network was hit by a cyber attack. Customer data was encrypted. A ransom demand of $2 million came with a 3-hour deadline. The entire tech department scrambled. They argued, shouted, and tested every possible solution. Nothing worked. COO Lucas slammed his hand on the table, shouting, "We're being humiliated. Restore everything, whatever it takes." Ryan stood in the hallway, gripping his phone, trembling. He knew there was only one person who could do it. He bolted down to the basement. Jordan was cleaning an oil spill beneath a generator. "You have to come upstairs." Ryan panted. "The system's collapsing. No one can fix it." "If you don't." Jordan looked at him. He didn't react, but for the first time, Ryan saw a flicker of anger in his eyes. Not anger at being called, but at the words, "if you don't," as if they reminded him of something from his past, something that had once broken him. "Fine," Jordan said at last, his voice low and hoarse, like an old breath being released. "But I need exactly 12 minutes. And no one touches a keyboard while I work." 12 minutes. That was all he needed to overturn a system the entire IT department couldn't crack. His fingers danced over the keyboard. System commands overlapped, pathways were rerouted, and hidden traces were unlocked as if it were a simple game. The entire room fell silent. All eyes were locked on the man who, just the night before, had been in an oil-stained work uniform, now standing like a conductor in an orchestra of code and logic. 12 minutes passed. The screens shifted from red to green. Data restored. The room erupted in applause. But Jordan didn't smile. He pulled out a USB drive, shut down the system, and said calmly, "I'm done here." Ryan couldn't hold it in anymore. He connected the projector and typed, "J.B. Blake, 2013 AI Summit." The screen lit up with an image of a young man, eyes ablaze, introduced as the anonymous genius behind the National Health Security System. Everyone turned to look at Jordan. Lucas froze. A few engineers exhaled sharply, as if they had just witnessed a plot twist from a movie. And you, if you're still following this story, you're probably holding your breath just like they were. Hit like if this moment shocked you, and if you've ever been underestimated, leave a comment. I'm not invisible, so this community knows you're here. Quiet, but undeniably valuable. Jordan walked out without another word. For the first time, the grand lobby of Argon Tech watched a janitor walk past, as if he had just stepped out of legend. After Jordan left the operations room, no one dared to speak for several minutes. The screen was still projecting his image, 25 years old, standing at an international tech summit, his hair neatly cut, his gaze sharp enough to cut through any firewall. The host's voice echoed. The architect of the U.S. government's healthcare security platform, nicknamed the White Ghost for leaving no trace in any infiltration. Everyone turned to look at one another, as if meeting eyes could confirm they weren't hallucinating. Lucas was the first to react. He barked, "Turn that off. No one is allowed to share this outside." But that command, spoken in panic, was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Ryan shot to his feet, his eyes sharper than ever. "Why hide it? Or are you afraid people will find out you once kicked a genius out of a boardroom just because his uniform was stained with oil?" Lucas's face flushed red. "You little brat, shut up. This isn't an intern's business." Ryan didn't back down. "Not my business? I saw him fix the system single-handedly while you all were arguing. I saw how you spoke to him like he was a dog." One engineer whispered, "He humiliated Jordan in front of partners once." Another chimed in, "I remember that day." Jordan didn't say a word. He just quietly walked out. The whispers spread like waves. The crowd no longer looked at Lucas as a boss. They looked at him as someone unmasked. Lucas tried to salvage his authority. "We're a company. We have processes, we have standards. We can't just let anyone," but he couldn't finish, because there was no one like Jordan. And everyone in the room knew. Without him, Argon Tech would have been demolished by a single line of malicious code. While the boardroom was in chaos, Jordan sat in the break room downstairs, sipping cold coffee. He felt no triumph, no victorious smile, no prideful glare. Only silence deep and heavy, like a moonless night. Ryan came running, out of breath. They're fighting up there. But I don't want you to just be a legend who passes through. Jordan set his cup down. I don't need their praise. Ryan hesitated. But they need to be taught a lesson. Lucas, too. He deserves to be unmasked. Jordan studied him for a long moment. Do you think Lucas's insults are something I haven't tasted before? Ryan went quiet. Jordan continued. I built security systems for 3 major hospitals, a university, and a charity. But I couldn't save my sister. His voice caught. She died because her insurance records failed, because of a glitch in a system I designed, but didn't have the authority to override. Ryan froze. After that day, I burned my degrees. I left the industry. I cleaned trash and fixed pipes just to feel alive. Until I saw you. Jordan looked up, a kid with the same eyes I had at 20, and I realized I couldn't stay silent forever. Ryan's eyes welled up. He whispered, So, what do you want to do now? Jordan Sahil, it's not about what I want. They need to understand. The flaw isn't me. The flaw is how they look at other people. He stood. That afternoon, the leadership organized an all-hands meeting in the main auditorium. No one knew what was coming. On stage, Lucas sat with a few senior executives, but all eyes were on the man who stepped to the podium, Jordan Blake. Dressed in a plain white shirt and slacks. His gaze calm, as if he had never been knocked down. He didn't use the microphone. He didn't need to. His voice carried clearly through the absolute silence. I'm Jordan Blake. I was invited to MIT, turned down NASA, and chose to design the national healthcare security system because my mother was a nurse. But my sister died at the hospital door, and since then, I've stopped believing in the system. I don't need fame. I just want to know, is there anyone left in this world who judges people by their lives, not their dress? Lucas moved to stand and rebut. But Jordan raised a hand. Mr. Lucas once told me I shouldn't step into a boardroom without status. But tell me what kind of status gives you the right to insult someone, even when they're fixing a problem your engineering team couldn't even locate. Applause broke out. At first, scattered. Then it rolled into a wave. Lucas hung his head. No one defended him. Jordan concluded, I will leave here. But before I go, I'm leaving behind a new blueprint. A free training program for Black youth, immigrants, and anyone shut out of tech because they didn't have an Ivy League degree. And I hope that one day, they'll teach those who once called them invisible. The entire auditorium rose to its feet. Applause thundered on. An older employee standing next to Ryan leaned over and whispered, I've worked here 15 years. I've never seen anyone like him. Ryan didn't answer. He simply looked up, tears in his eyes, and whispered, He doesn't need to prove anything. He is the proof. If you've read this far, you probably feel something stirring in your chest. If you've ever been underestimated, ever lived under the weight of someone's contempt, comment I am enough below. We read every word you write. And if you want to keep following stories that make your heart move like this, subscribe to the channel. Don't miss out on people like Jordan. 3 days after the meeting, Jordan officially left Argon Tech. He left almost no trace. No farewell party. No final round of applause. On his last night shift, his locker was empty. The floor mop folded neatly, and the battered toolbox was gone, as if it had never existed. But his absence was anything but quiet. It was a silent slap across the company's nervous system, because people began to look around and realize a frightening truth. No one knew who they were working alongside anymore. Lucas was suspended. No fanfare. His resignation email was circulated internally with a cold subject line, no longer aligned with the company's new values. Some were smug. Some stayed silent. But Ryan wasn't. He didn't feel joy. He understood Lucas was merely a symptom of something larger. A corporate culture built on success, but utterly devoid of compassion. Meanwhile, Ryan went to an address Jordan had once scribbled on a scrap of paper. Facility E12, Old Industrial District. When he arrived, he saw a simple wooden sign, the lab, for kids who code without a degree. 7 old computers were pieced together from recycled parts inside the modest space. Each afternoon, Jordan taught a small group of Black, Latino, Arab, and other kids how to write their first lines of code. No textbooks, no PowerPoint, only the bright, burning eyes of children who, for the first time, believed someone when they were told, "You don't have to be born in the right place to have the right to dream." Ryan sat quietly in the corner, observing. Jordan didn't lecture like a teacher. He told stories about software glitches that once shut down Chicago's traffic lights, stories about a 16-year-old hacker who broke defense codes to prove he wasn't invisible. Each story ended with a single question: if it were you, how would you use this knowledge? By the end of the session, Ryan walked up and asked, "Do you need help?" Jordan smiled faintly and shook his head. "I need people who understand who they're helping. Not to feel superior, but to stand beside them, from the dirt up." Ryan was silent, then nodded. "I understand, and I'm ready to start over, from the beginning." Word of Jordan's training program began to spread, first within the community of engineers of color, then to local media. A small television station aired a feature, "The Janitor, Who Saved a Tech Empire," but Jordan refused every interview. He didn't want to be a symbol. He just wanted to be the ground beneath someone's feet. Argonne Tech, after its crisis, launched a new fund. The Blake Fellowship provides scholarships to high school students who are passionate about STEM but lack resources. The new CEO proposed the program name. Jordan didn't know about it until a little girl from his class handed him a piece of paper. "This scholarship is for taking your class," she said. "Your name is on it." Jordan looked at the bold print. Blake Fellowship. The clean printed letters felt like an apology from the system that had once cast him aside. He didn't say anything. He just reached out and gently ruffled the girl's hair. And in his eyes, for the first time, there was acknowledgement. Not from others, but from himself to himself. At Argonne Tech, change happened quietly. The employee break room was refurbished. For the first time in years, management meetings had a mandatory agenda item: listening policy. Those who had once treated Jordan as invisible no longer dared to speak loudly in the halls. One of them, a staffer who had once accidentally spilt coffee on his shoes, left a note on Ryan's desk. "I owe him an apology. Please tell him that, if you can." Ryan didn't say anything. He folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. Have you ever seen someone change, not because they were forced to, but because they were awakened? If you've ever witnessed a single act of kindness shift an entire system, comment "I believe in change" below. Every journey begins with someone brave enough, not to hate, but to lead. It was a chilly Saturday afternoon. The wind swept through the old industrial district, making the windows of the lab rattle lightly, as if breathing in sync with the people inside. Jordan sat at the long wooden table, pale sunlight spilling across his shoulders as he carefully helped a young boy debug his first piece of Python code to print an image. Next to him, Ryan was hunched over, repairing the power supply of an old computer. "I did it!" the boy exclaimed. A heart shape appeared on the screen, made of ASCII characters, crooked but clear. Jordan didn't say anything. He just smiled. It was one of those rare, genuine smiles, as if a part of him had finally begun to heal after all these years. A week earlier, Jordan had received a handwritten letter. No sender. The slanted handwriting was familiar. "I think I've forgiven you. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let go. Thank you for keeping your promise. Your sister." Jordan kept that letter in his wallet, tucked beside a photo of her, like a one-way ticket back to a past he had long rejected. Ryan approached and handed Jordan a piece of paper. "I got a scholarship to continue my studies in software engineering." Jordan nodded. "Congratulations." Ryan pressed his lips together. I don't want to leave the lab. Jordan's deep voice cut in. You can choose to study or choose to lead. Ryan met his gaze. I want to do both. Like you. Jordan was silent for a long moment before speaking slowly. Then don't become me. Become a better version of yourself. Don't live in someone else's shadow. Not even the person you respect the most. That weekend, Jordan took Ryan and a few kids to a cemetery on the outskirts of town. The hill was covered in a dull gray. No flowers, no grandeur. Just a small headstone engraved with the name Ava Blake, his sister. Jordan laid a bouquet of wildflowers by the grave. The same boy who had coded the ASCII heart carefully placed a piece of paper next to it. For her. This is the first letter I wrote, using the printers command. Jordan knelt, his hand gently touching the cold stone. He whispered, See that, Ava? You're living again. In another form. Through every line of code these kids write. Ryan stood silently behind him, eyes glistening. Do you think she can hear you? Jordan didn't turn back. If life is a stream of signals, then love is the strongest one. It never disappears. It just changes form. The next day, Ryan happened to open a letter addressed to Jordan from the Department of Education. Inside was an official invitation to serve as an advisor for a national STEM program for underserved communities. Jordan declined. Instead, he sent back a short email. Send me the equipment and materials. I'll teach from where I stand. No spotlight. No headlines. Jordan turned down every commercial partnership, even from Argon Tech, which had now completely transformed and was slowly trying to make amends. But Ryan knew. Jordan didn't hold a grudge. He just had no desire to return to the place that had once drowned him. One evening, Ryan returned to the lab after class. Jordan wasn't there. On the workbench was a small wooden box, marked with the words, For the next guide. Inside was an old necklace, the pendant, a hand-engraved microchip with the words, Don't prove. Just be. Ryan slipped the necklace around his neck, not as a badge of honor, but as a reminder, every quiet act of kindness carries weight. Sometimes, you don't need to shout to change the world. You just need to be steady, silent, and relentless. You may never meet a Jordan Blake in real life, but maybe you've met someone like him. The overlooked worker, the forgotten genius, the teacher without a name tag who silently changed you. If you've ever known someone like that, share their story below. And if you find value in this story, if it made you pause for a moment and think a little longer than a day, please leave a like, a comment, or subscribe to the channel. Not to glorify me, but to spread nameless, ageless kindness that doesn't need proof. They deserve to be remembered. And you deserve to be seen.